Hey, let's go. Classic, huh? How y'all living, huh? Thanks for tuning in, and as always, crazy times we live in, man. We got terrorists out here, goofies in the streets, terrorists, cheerleaders, and shit. Ain't that something? Anyway, let's talk about AZ. Truth be told, this is not a good album. I hate to say it, but you know, I listened to it, gave it a try. I wasn't expecting much from it because the singles weren't great either. So I kind of figured that it wouldn't be an album that holds up on any measure. But let's talk about it briefly, okay? A little bit. I will say, let me say the first thing that I'm happy about. I do think that AZ's flow has held up pretty well, all things considered, you know? He certainly still has the voice to rap, and he still has that smooth flow that he's very much known for, and he stays in his pocket. And again, AZ is proof that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Once you've created something that's amazing, that works really well, you don't gotta change that shit. Just, ideally you wanna update it with the times, but again, you don't wanna just outright ditch your formula, because why would you ditch the thing that people love you for? We obviously love AZ because of that multisyllabic, very smooth flow, like very crisp, you know what I'm saying? That style that AZ has. So again, that's his trademark. You should always keep that. That's what we expect from him. So if he comes out trying to like, that would be stupid, right? So I'm fine with AZ still kind of doing the same flow, right? For the most part. Again, and it still sounds good. It's not like he's doing the same flow and his voice is degraded, or it's like a bad version of the same flow. It's pretty intact for the most part. So I'll give AZ credit for that. Now, of course, when I talk about rap albums, I always say to y'all, the first thing that I look for in any rap album is the production. Because to me, hip hop is about the producers primarily. Okay? I know that the rappers are the face of hip hop. They're the ones that visually we see, and the ones that casuals respectfully latch onto. But the truth of the matter is that hip hop to me is a beat driven production genre at its very, very core. So if your beats aren't hitting, your album is never going to be anything that people consider to be good on any level. So the point is, the first thing that I always check for is, do I like any of these beats? Number one, do I think these beats are fly? Do they bang? Or do they captivate me? Do they do something to me? And I gotta say, unfortunately, they do not. Okay. Buck Wild did the production. I'm always very skeptical of when I see albums that are done by one producer only. I know that RZA and Primo have done this and successfully well, but in general, I find that when you have one producer, your album tends to get pretty monotonous, and you're essentially asking that producer to make 10, 12 classic beats in a row, and that's just not going to happen. It's very rare that something would happen. Whereas it's easier for that great producer to make maybe 3 great beats or 4 great beats, right? And then you hop on and get another 4 great beats from someone else. So I've talked about this before, but to me the sweet spot is about, let's say, 4 or 5 producers, right? So you have enough of a variation in sound, but there is a cohesion there. It's not just like all over the place in terms of sound. So I think that Buck Wild, unfortunately, his beats weren't really strong enough on this album for me. And that's just my opinion, But I can't really say that there was a single beat that really did it for me on any level. But I'll go through some of the tracks that I think maybe let's just talk about a little bit. So, one of the greatest. It's interesting because on this song, AZ is just kind of talking his shit to a certain extent. It's a mediocre song, but again, that same flow reminded me of the Come Up. And even, it's funny because he mentions that Big's death took a toll on him. And right away I was like, it's funny, I just happened to be bumping the Come Up earlier this morning. In fact, that's what made me realize, I was like, oh, AZ got an album out, right? I should probably listen to that. So the point is, in the Come Up, he's also like, cocksuckers hit up big, Pac is gone, the state of hip hop is wrong, you want more to log on to az.com, right? My shit. So again, very much Come Up reminiscent in that regard. But the beat just wasn't really my cup of tea at all, right? So Moving on. The GOAT. Speaking of big, and actually, let me go back to that song because this is something that AZ has mentioned now twice. And I don't know if any sort of interviewer has gone into depth about this. I know he's done some interviews recently with Math Hoffa and Bag Fuel. I haven't watched them in full. You know, a lot of these times, these guys are always trying to ask these sort of cloud chasey type of questions, and that's why I don't really fuck with their interviews. But I do think that if AZ has mentioned Big having his death clearly has affected him on some level, we should probably find out more about that as hip hop fans. And again, I'm not really interested in does AZ know who killed Big and does he have beef and shit, like stupid street shit that a lot of these cloud chasing interviewers will ask. But just more on an artistic level, like how do you feel about what this Big music? What did it mean for you? How did it inspire you to create what you created? That kind of stuff. I would love to know more. So anyway, because clearly that vibe is still going. You get a song like The GOAT, which literally sounds like the Dead Wrong sort of drums or vibe. It's like a Biggie leftover of sorts. Not a good beat, but And in fact, I think that was like the lead single from this album that I remember was the first thing I heard, and it was, to me, kind of a bad sign, but that's a side point. Next song that you may want to check out, but again, I'm not really saying it's great, is Go Time, just because Fairmont is on it. It's a Fairmont guest. I thought the song was pretty yawn, all things considered. Now, the best song on here, in my opinion, is a song called How We Get It. I thought it was probably the best beat overall, even though, again, I don't really think the beat's incredible, but I do think it's probably the best beat. And surprisingly, I think Fat Joe actually did pretty well. I was surprised to see Fat Joe flow with energy. Fat Joe has always had a great rap voice, even when his actual vocal sort of talent isn't necessarily, like his rhyming talent isn't really up there, in my opinion. But he certainly has a voice that captures your attention and actually sounds good. It has a very authoritative, but still kind of smooth voice to it. So, Fat Joe is certainly somebody that I respect, and I think he's definitely got some dope songs, without a doubt, right? Without a doubt. He wouldn't be in my top 50 rappers. I don't even know if he'd make a top 100 for me necessarily, but he's certainly somebody who's done some shit, without a doubt. And when he gets that right beat, I mean, this is the best beat on the album. I think he just he gets inspired. You can tell this is a guy who's a hip hop fan, Fat Joe. Like this line he had, I thought was pretty fly. He's like, never weaponless, always effortless. Came out in 93, I'll show you what the exception is. Fentanyl flow, got him leaning in arenas. Bank seat level, fuck niggas can never see us. I was like, oh, okay, all right, talking shit. So there was a little slick, I like a good rhyme, man. I like a good rhyme. So I think that was pretty decent. But other than that, I would not recommend this album to anybody. I think you could skip this entire album and you wouldn't really miss anything. Yeah. But let's go back to the good days of AZ. My shit. Give me the countdown. AZ. Yeah, man. Streets yours for the take. Yeah. I love this fucking record, man. That shit is. Anyway, the way Preem did this beat, man, and obviously AZ killed it. We already know this, but this beat is just the beautiful struggle. You know what I'm saying? Literally, like it says so much. You know what I mean? Like that's a anyone can do shake your dreads, right? Hot shit, whatever. But who can make this shit? That you've encapsulated a whole borough, a whole group of people, and how they live in a beautiful beat. And you know what I'm saying? Like that really evoke a whole atmosphere, a poetry atmosphere for you to really get your shit off. Very few people can do that shit, man, honestly. Consistently, too. That's why Primo's the god, man. Anyway, love y'all. Peace.